What a lovely way to begin the day. Good morning, I'm Nikki Willard. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Huntington's virtual Sunday service. It's good to be together. We are streaming live from multiple locations, so please be patient with any technical mishaps you may see or hear. We're using Zoom's meeting format so we can all see each other. When the service ends, the fellowship hour will begin right on this same link, so please stay on. We'd like to extend a special welcome today to visitors who may be joining our virtual service for the first time, as well as any newcomers who are returning. If you are new to our congregation and want to speak with someone to learn more about us, please contact our office administrator, Lauren Knoll, at office@uufh.org. If you have a pastoral matter, you can contact our minister, Reverend Jude Geiger, at minister@uufh.org. I'll put this information in the chat during the service as well. Know that whoever you are, whomever you love, and wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. I have a few brief announcements. Happy Spring, which officially arrived yesterday. Happy Ostara. Ostara, the coming of spring, is celebrated on the astronomical vernal equinox. For Wiccans and many other neo-pagans, Ostara celebrates the return of the goddess as maiden, the courting of the goddess, the planet Earth, by the god, nature, and the reawakening of the earth. This was originally an agricultural holiday, marking the first time planting could occur. So now is when you can plant your potatoes, carrots, onions, peas, and lettuce, and also flowers like pansies, which are hardy. With this wonderful news, I have a couple of very spring-like announcements. Thanks to Debbie Cohen and Cindy Vulcan-Neighbor, the UUFH Spring Plant Sale is back on this year. Annuals, vegetables, herbs, and perennials will be available. You'll be able to place your orders online between March 25th and April 13th. The order form will be available on our website soon. Checks and credit cards will be accepted. Stay tuned for more information. Our Grow to Give garden team has been hard at work as spring has been showing her warmth. As you know, we're still in the midst of a pandemic, and because of high unemployment levels, the need for fresh produce at our local pantries is as great, if not greater, than ever before. It's hard, if not impossible, for financially strapped people to find extra cash to buy organic produce, which is the only stuff grown in the garden. Accordingly, they have made it a goal this year to grow more food and to harvest from spring through fall. As soon as weather and temperature permit, the sowing will begin. They'd love to have more helping hands. Please join their first Zoom meeting to take place the evening of March 23rd at 7:15. All are welcome to join Reverend Jude via Zoom next Sunday, March 28th at 11:30 a.m. for the continued discussion of the book, An Indigenous People's History of the United States for Young People. I attended the first session, and it is a fascinating read and enlightening discussion. You need not have attended the first session to join in this meeting. Another reminder about the People's Plan. This comprehensive plan developed by 3 community-led coalitions presents 12 proposals for structural reform to reimagine policing and public safety on Long Island and has been given to both Suffolk and Nassau County officials. All documents are due to be given to Governor Cuomo in Albany on April 1st. The UUFH Social Justice Ministry has endorsed it, and they strongly encourage you to take a look at it and perhaps endorse it as an individual. The more people endorse it, the more likely it is that officials will take it seriously. In this extraordinary year, the UUFH Auction Gala 2021 is virtual and online for the first time. All silent bidding will be online beginning April 18th at 11 a.m. and end on April 24th, 9:30 p.m. after our Zoom Gala event. Your help is necessary to make the auction a success. Decide as soon as possible what items you plan to donate. All offerings for bid items must be submitted by April 7th, but why wait? Everything you need to know to donate, including suggested items, is on the new Auctria website through the button Virtual Auction Info on the homepage of the UUFH website, where you'll also get the auction calendar and a note from the Auction Gala team. For further information on each of these events I've just mentioned, please see the flash and/or the UUFH website. But there's more. Please save the date Sunday, April 25th for our annual congregational meeting, part 1, which will be held virtually, of course. Further details will be forthcoming in an e-blast and the flash. Lastly, Patricia Shee, who is an activist, singer, and friend of the fellowship, will be standing from 12 to 1 p.m. today at the intersection of Park Avenue and 25A, northwest corner on the Village Green in Huntington, in support of Asians, women, and all victims and potential victims of hate and violence. She welcomes all who wish to join her, make signs, and sing easy songs with her. Be sure to wear masks and remain socially distanced. She will also try to do this again next Sunday, same time, same location. I invite you now to settle into your bodies and quiet your minds as we breathe deeply together and settle into our time of worship. Please join me in saying our mission statement. In religious community, we nurture our individual spirits through caring for one another and helping to heal the world. Please join me in singing our affirmation.
We cast not our eyes below. We say to ourselves, we are how we came, wounded from struggles, triumphant in our survival, entitled by birthright to belong to this, the only humankind there is, saying, I am included, I belong, I am here, and I will be and do. I will breathe joy into a desolation. I will breathe peace into conflict. I will breathe life into destruction. I will be the earth I wish to see. I am growth and hope and respect. Our story this morning is a historical one, and it's written by Unitarian Universalist story writer Janine Groschmeyer. When Joseph Jordan was born in Virginia in 1842, slavery was still legal. Most people of African descent were treated as property, like horses or dogs. They were bought and sold. They had no rights. Whether enslaved or free, people of color were not treated with respect. Joseph had been born free in a small community on the Elizabeth River. He learned to read and write. At a young age, he began to work on the river harvesting oysters alongside the men. When he was 21, he moved to the city of Norfolk. Joseph found work, first as laborer, then as a grocer, and finally as a carpenter, building furniture and houses with his hands. He married Indiana Brown, and they had 3 children and built a new life together. The Civil War had ended by now. Slavery was gone, and many other people also needed to build new lives. Joseph worked hard. He bought land and built more houses, which he rented to other families. But even though people could no longer be bought and sold, true freedom had not yet arrived for African Americans. The laws were unfair, and it was hard for African Americans to find places to live or good jobs or schools of any kind. Joseph had become a Baptist minister, and when he preached on Sundays, he sometimes spoke of the sins of the white oppressors and how God would surely punish them by sending them to burn in hell for all eternity. Then a friend gave Joseph a book, The Plain Guide to Universalism, and he read of God's promise of salvation to all, the powerless and the powerful, the oppressed and their oppressors alike. Universalism said that everyone, no matter who they were or what they had done, was a child of God. Joseph also knew that Jesus had said, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. So Joseph stopped preaching a message of vengeance, and he began preaching a message of respect and love. Joseph wanted to learn more about the Universalist faith, so he went to Philadelphia to study with a Universalist minister at a Universalist church. The people there treated him as a person instead of a thing, as a fellow child of God, as someone worthy of respect. The 7 members of the Universalist Ordaining Council found him to have a clear and bright mind and gave him a unanimous recommendation. On the 31st of March, 1889, Joseph Jordan officially became a Universalist minister, the first African-American to be ordained by the Universalist denomination. Joseph returned to Norfolk, Virginia, and opened the first Universalist church of Norfolk in a rented room. He built the pulpit with his own hands. The congregation grew quickly, and with the help of donations from other Universalist churches, the Universalists in Virginia soon built new meeting houses and schools. Dozens of African-American children came to learn, for there were few other schools available to them. Joseph knew that education was vital. He worked every day, teaching during the week and preaching on Sundays, sharing the Universalist message of God's love for everyone. Joseph Jordan died in 1901 when he was 59 years old. Over many decades, the churches and schools Joseph Jordan helped build gave thousands of families in Virginia a chance to learn and a place to be treated with respect.
Our first reading today is Schooled by Colleen Hoover. I got schooled this year by everyone, by my little brother, by my mother, my best friend, my teacher, my father, and by a boy that I'm seriously, deeply, madly, incredibly, and undeniably in love with. I got so schooled this year by a 9-year-old. He taught me that it's okay to live life a little backwards, and how to laugh at what you would think is unlaughable. I got schooled this year by a band. They taught me how to find that feeling of feeling again. They taught me how to decide what to be and go be it. I got schooled this year by a cancer patient. She taught me so much. She's still teaching me so much. She taught me to question, to never regret. She taught me to push my boundaries because that's what they're there for. She told me to find a balance between head and heart. And then she taught me how. I got schooled this year by a foster kid. She taught me to respect the hand that I was dealt and to be grateful I was even dealt a hand. I got schooled this year by my teacher. He taught me that the points are not the point. The point is poetry. I got schooled this year by my father. He taught me that heroes aren't always invincible and that the magic is within me. I got schooled this year by a boy that I'm seriously, deeply, madly, incredibly, and undeniably in love with. And he taught me the most important thing of all, to put the emphasis on life. I invite us all now to sing Spirit of Life. Following the song, we'll enter into a time of silence and then prayer. As you participate at home, remember that it's not about the perfection of silence, but the intention. Join with me in singing now.
Source of love, God of many names, bring us back to ourselves. With the closing of winter, help us to reflect on the places in our hearts where we have hunkered down, where we have closed ourselves to the bitterness around us. May we let go of the biting comments of the past so they not fester in our minds. May we make room for the coming spring and for the seeds of the Spirit that are striving to bud if only we would care for them. Mother of all, bring us to your living water. May we drink in your possibility. The seasons remind us that all things are temporary. All pains have a way of passing, with new joys only a grasping hand away. May we not fixate on what is past, making it ever and always in our present. Rather, teach us to learn what is to be learned, mourn for what is gone, to live brightly and sharply from those lessons, and craft new stories for our lives. We hold in our hearts this hour Asian and Pacific Islanders in the US who are increasingly targets of racialized violence. With the increasing brazenness of white supremacy, with the hazardous ways in which the former administration spoke of people of Asian descent, we know some of our people are more at risk for these intentional actions. We pray our leaders find the will for more sensible gun laws. We pray our people turn away from abject fear, fear-mongering, and hate. And we hope for strength and solidarity for and with the Asian and Pacific Islander communities across our nation. We pause now to honor the names of the 8 people killed in or near Atlanta this week. Soon-Chun Park, age 74. Hyung-Jung Grant, née Kim, age 51. Suncha Kim, age 69. Young Ai Yu, age 63. Xiaoji Dan, age 49. Dayo Feng, age 44. Delana Ashley Wan, age 33. Paul Andre Michels, age 54. Join with me now in a moment of silence. May we find another way. We also today honor the life of UU minister and luminary, the Reverend Elizabeth Strong. She suffered a stroke this week that left her paralyzed from the neck down, though fully cognizant still of her surroundings. She chose of her own accord to be taken off life support on yesterday. She was an early pioneer as a woman in the ministry back in the days when women were rare for us in the clergy, though today women now serve in the majority, thanks to role models like Reverend Elizabeth Strong. She was also a force in religious education and a mentor to many, many religious educators. She received the Angus MacLean Award in 2010. It's our highest honor for religious education, denominationally speaking. Over the years here at the fellowship, we have heard her writings and chalice lightings in many of our services. Even as recently as last Sunday, we lit our chalice with her words. And I'll share in her own words now, and I'll quote, "I believe that God is love. Jesus is a teacher and a friend. People are inherently good. There is truth I know, and more I will know. Service is required of me to live my faith. And in the end, all will be well." May the wings of God set thee aflight, Reverend Strong. Thank you for your life shared with us. And we have much this day to celebrate. On our grounds yesterday, right outside our main doors, around our chalice sidewalk, we celebrated the baptism of 20-month-old Gideon, son to Julie and David, with 4 of their immediate family. And it is a joy to celebrate the news that Eric and Jim Rubin Perez welcomed Jane Sukia Rubin Perez on March 15th at 3:07 p.m. She weighed 8 pounds, 2 ounces. They're already so in love with her, especially big sister Ellie. They're hoping to celebrate with the congregation in person when there has been a return to normalcy. And may we be all inspired by the ordination of our former ministerial intern, the Reverend Greta Jo Seidel, who now serves the historic Fountain Street Church. She was a blessing to our community these past 3 or 4 years, and may she continue to be a blessing to those she ministers to in the generations to come. I invite the gathering now to lift up the names of all those we wish to hold in our hearts this hour. Carol, Lillian, Tom, Don, Jared, Aaron, Vince, Greta Jo and her family, Renita, Beth, Linda, Vincent, Patty, Ruth Ann, Noreen and Vicky, William and Phyllis, Jackie, Catherine and Gary, Jesse, Lorraine, Linda, Jeff, Genevieve, Lenny, Connie, and Rose, Alice and Dick Richardson, the Kellogg family, Jessica, Eileen, all who continue to suffer from COVID. For all these names spoken aloud and for all those that are written silently on the tablets of our hearts, we pray.
I thank Reverend Jude for giving me a few moments this morning to tell you some of my thoughts about the People's Plan, which, as was said during the announcements this morning, is a set of 12 public safety recommendations developed by 3 community-led organizations, a reimagining of what policing could look like on Long Island. It is an amazing convergence of input from Long Islanders from all racial, age, gender, religious, and socioeconomic groups. A document that was truly created by the people, for the people. Several UUs were involved in the development of this visionary document, including UUFH's own Helen Boxwell, Mary Beth Geither, Julie Gray Owens, and Harry Berger. Developed pursuant to Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 203, requesting all police departments submit plans for reimagining policing and public safety, the People's Plan is designed to ensure that Long Island is safe for all residents. I am an outsider looking in. I attended a couple of meetings and a briefing session when the finalized plan was released, and I have reviewed the one-pager condensed version. I want to express my sense of wonder and awe at how so many people came together to strive toward one goal: ensuring equality and justice for all people on Long Island. Last Monday, a group of fellowshippers representing the UUFH Social Justice Ministry attended a banner rally near the Suffolk County Executive's office in Hop Hog with a group of other organizations that have endorsed the People's Plan. It was very cold and very windy, but so very worth it to show our support. In the spirit of the UU Third Principle, I learned so much from those who spoke, as well as all the authors of this document: the acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth. The words of one man in particular stood out in my mind. He spoke about baby steps in that some members of both the Suffolk and Nassau County governments are paying attention to parts of this document. He is ready for bigger adult steps. But to me, this is how change is made, through baby steps. What I have witnessed is wholly in line with the proposed 8th principle we've been talking about this year, which I quote in relevant part: journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. These groups are mirroring those words. This is a big baby step towards beloved community. Our split plate this month is H2 Empower. H2 Empower inspires hope, humanity, and higher learning in Ethiopia and Burundi. In Ethiopia, H2 Empower built a community library, computer room, and a rural school library. They brought water to 4 schools in their community and trained 450 teachers and 190 school librarians. H2 Empower, founded by Helen Boxwell, by the way, built 19 public school classrooms to cut class size from over 100 children in a class. In Burundi, H2 Empower supported a microloan and literacy project and provided scholarships for Burundi students. This year, they hope to build a water and sanitation system in a primary school for 1,500 girls. To donate, you can send a check to the office or donate through the website as seen on your screen. You can also donate through the Give Plus Church app, which can be found on the App Store or Google Play. Thank you for your support. Our second reading today is Don't Push the Chair by Shunrizu Suzuki. This morning, when we were bowing in the zendo, we heard a big noise overhead because upstairs in the dining room, people were pushing chairs across the tile floor without picking them up. This is not the way to treat chairs, not only because it may disturb the people who are bowing in the zendo underneath, but also because fundamentally, this is not a respectful way to treat things. To push the chairs across the floor is very convenient, but it gives us a lazy feeling. Of course, this kind of laziness is part of our culture, and it eventually causes us to fight with each other. Instead of respecting things, we want to use them for ourselves. And if it is difficult to use them, We want to conquer them. This kind of idea does not accord with the spirit of practice. When we pick up the chairs one by one carefully, without making much noise, then we will have the feeling of practice in the dining room. We will not make much noise, of course, but also the feeling is quite different. When we practice this way, we ourselves are Buddha, and we respect ourselves. To care for the chairs means our practice goes beyond the Zendo.
Thank you, Nikki. Challenge of acceptance and spiritual growth. I remember the first time I ever visited the big public park in Brooklyn called Prospect Park. I think people are familiar, many people here are familiar with it. I came across a map. This must have been, I was right out of seminary, so 13 years ago. I came across a map on one of its little boards showing you where things are in the park. It mentioned there was a dog beach. I thought, wow, I didn't think the water line came this close to the park. Growing up in Jersey, I imagined a shoreline with dogs frolicking as far as the eye can see, owners alternating between feeling joy for the playfulness of their pups and stressing over the more powerful waves around their little New York City apartment canines. I knew some of the beaches that allow dogs, but I didn't think it'd be possible in a city of this density. Well, apparently it wasn't possible. In case you're not familiar with Prospect Park, it's roughly about 9 avenues from the river. In reality, the dog beach is one fenced-off stretch of water connecting into a larger inland lake. In the early mornings when the leash law is waived, hundreds of dogs do frolic in it, but the only waves that occur are what they generate chasing balls, ducks, and each other. In afternoons, it's usually only 2 or 3 dogs at a time who are tethered to their owners. That park aside, wherever I go, this is true. You can see it at Condrey Hall, right across from the fence from us, next door. I find it fascinating how all the dogs I encounter have completely different personalities. Some are very standoffish, distant from other dogs while maintaining a just try it look on their faces that may or may not just happen to resonate with their human on the other end of the leash. Others come across as playfully stupid, eager to please, grab attention. They're the ones that run up to each new dog to say, hey, where you been? Even though they likely never met. I've tried to notice my own reactions to these different doggy attitudes over the years. I pay way more attention to the cute, friendly, lovable dogs than I do the ones that maintain their distance. They make me feel better. And I imagine they're probably a bit happier than their counterparts. I used to just think of them as slightly, and I'm sorry to admit this, slightly dumb creatures who showed interest and care for anyone around them, lacking in discernment. They gave their acceptance and love freely. Being a dog owner, parent, has changed me though. I'm continuing to learn they're the smart ones, and I'm the one that needs to catch up. They're happier, I'm happier. The mind at the end of the leash might be a bit concerned that their pet is overly social and willing to run away with anyone to the circus. And that line is actually a quote from a former fearful neighbor who was worried I was going to run away with her 2 hot dogs. I'm amazed to report that even the Condrey Hall duck population shows no concern or fear from the friendly dog types. They might be convinced to slowly wade away from their intensity, but there's no flapping away to safety from the gregarious ones. The ducks only flee the stone cold ones. I wonder what it would be like a coffee hour. I mean, I wonder what coffee hour is like. I forget it, it's been so long. But when we return to coffee hour someday, if we were all a bit more like the carefree, floppy-eared mutts than the strong but distant barkers and yippers. It might be tough on the introverts among us from time to time. I imagine overall, though, it would feel pretty good. I've tested this theory out and learned something amazing. Generally speaking, when I show others, I'm interested in getting to know them, that I'm outwardly friendly, and that I accept them for who they are. They mimic my behavior. By channeling the wisdom of the floppy-eared dogs everywhere, I found friendly people in places where only unfriendly people once dwelled. I wonder where they all came from. There's a short poem by Tom Hennon that I think many of us are familiar with. I read it once or twice before in the last 8 years or so. It's called The Life of a Day. I want to share with you again now. Like people or dogs, each day is unique and has its own personality quirks, which can easily be seen if you look closely. But there are so few days as compared to people, not to mention dogs, that it would be surprising if a day were not 100 times more interesting than most people. But usually they just pass, mostly unnoticed, unless they're wildly nice, like autumn ones full of red maple trees and hazy sunlight, or if they're grimly awful ones in a winter blizzard that kills the lost traveler and bunches of cattle. For some reason, we like to see days pass, even though most of us claim we don't want to reach our last one for a long time. We examine each day before us with barely a glance and say, no, this isn't one I've been looking for, and wait in a bored sort of way for the next. We are convinced our lives will start for real. Meanwhile, this day is going by perfectly well adjusted, as some days are, with the right amounts of sunlight and shade, and a light breeze scented with a perfume made from the mixture of fallen apples, corn stubble, dry oak leaves, and the faint odor of last night's meandering skunk. This poem takes on a new meaning for me. Maybe it takes on a new meaning for all of us this year in light of COVID. I've heard so many of us, and I've experienced it myself. The year has gone by like a flash, and also every day has dragged on in some ways. Every day is not the day we've been looking for, and wait in a bored sort of way for the next, when our lives will start for real. And I wonder how, in the most extreme circumstances, how with this challenge of acceptance, how do we accept the world as it is right now that we have no control over? And how do we live into it when we have no control? How do we stake claim to some minutes or hours of sunlight when everything becomes routine and monotonous? And when the next day comes and we're back to whatever normal will be when this is over, how do we allow ourselves to restart? These are things I wonder in these next few months as we're in this kind of liminal transition space. I believe we do the same sort of thing of waiting with people and possibly dogs. We examine each day before us with barely a glance and say, no, this isn't one I've been looking for, and wait in a bored sort of way for the next, when we are convinced our lives will start for real. Ever waiting, we give away our lives in the hope that one will someday show up. And the truth is, it's already here, and it can be pretty wonderful even amidst all of this, even when it's pretty awful. And there will always be those days. But so long as we have breath to breathe and we have a precious gift to unwrap and experience, for some reason, we like to see days pass, even though most of us claim we don't want to reach our last one for a long time. The same is true for each person we encounter, even when they're pretty awful. We can choose to interact with abandon or reserve, but we ought not be surprised when we receive only what we give. We cannot control how others act, and I don't mean staying around abusive people, but we can control how open we are and how committed to engage we will be. That's the religious discipline, the challenge inherent to our third principle. We covenant to affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encourage spiritual growth in our congregations. It's phrased as an action statement, not a creedal belief, as all of our principles are. We aren't saying we believe in acceptance and growth, although many of us in fact believe so. We're saying that we will commit to promote acceptance and spiritual growth with each other and in our religious homes. We can accept each other, and we don't get a pass to not grow, to not change, to not mature over the years, to not spiritually deepen. I say it's a religious discipline because it's hard work and something our religion demands of us. It also happens to be something we ask of each other as congregates. The promise of this discipline is saving. I don't mean to say that it's saving in the sense of some afterlife that will happen at some indeterminate point in the future. I mean to say that it's saving right here, right now, Without the conviction of this discipline, we're only promised a life of isolation and stagnation. With it, we enjoy the promise of a deeper connection with the life around us. The main demand is to channel a little bit of that carefree mutt in each of us, to let go of the clutch and grab of judgment we so often employ against ourselves and others, to move through base tolerance of others who may or may not resonate with, and to learn to accept them for who they are. To let go of that clutch and grab requires a discipline for most of us. Our third principle offers the promise of connection and demands that we allow ourselves to allow others in. As we come to a close, I want to share another story about walking through the same park actually. This is a few years later. I once came across a story that matched this discipline. This time it's about little kids, not dogs. I saw a gathering of yellow-shirted summer camp first and second graders one summer. The camp advisor, when we still had camps, the camp advisor was doing a call and a response with the kids as they were marching in a line to their next destination. One day I heard a bird singing. It had a great thing to say to me. It rhymed when the kids sang it. I can't do it. It got punctuated by the advisor calling out after one girl who was lagging behind. Anna, come on over. Stay with us. This went back and forth for about 30 seconds before the counselor invoked the terrifying count to 5. I remember the horror of that teacher threat back in grade school. 1, 2, 3, and then Anna came running. She got back to the group and all was forgiven. And they continued their march in the warm, fun summer sun. I often hear it said that as Unitarian Universalists, we accept all people, but not all behaviors. That line actually, a version of it got said yesterday in Reverend Greta Jo Seidel's ordination service by the preacher. Try not to dwell in your minds too long on the metaphor of a single line marching anywhere. That will likely never be a true descriptor for Unitarian Universalists anywhere. Think more about how that counselor let the annoyance of the last 30 seconds go. She accepted the situation within clearly defined boundaries, and then allowed herself and Anna to reconnect and move on. Sometimes the affronts in our daily lives will seem more severe, but I'm convinced that the vast majority of those affronts are simply the dressed up equivalent of Anna's lingering a bit too long, when the rest of the group needed to move on. In the clutch and grab, we force ourselves to tolerate bad behavior, but never loosen our grip on the offense of the frustration. If the counselor had held on to that bad behavior of the little girl, she would have had a much worse afternoon and probably ruined it for the kids as well. Instead, she let herself and the children present be free to hear the promise of what the great thing that bird in the tree had to say to them that day. Amen and blessed be. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we're together again. For those who see God, may God be with us. For those who embrace life, may life return our affections. For those who seek a right path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. For this is the day we were given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen.
Thank you, Isabella. That was so lovely. Remember, don't sign off. You can stay on and join us in a few moments for some informal gathering at our fellowship hour right here on the same Zoom link. Hope to see you there.